now.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Old Men Talking. I'm your host, Carmen Love. I'm here today, of course, with Old John as well as Roger, and we are joined by Bob Dub. So, welcome, everyone.
Th- Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Karma.
Alrighty. So, today, what is the topic, guys? What specifically are we going to focus on? Does anyone have something that they would like to focus on? Last week I feel like we went a little bit all over the place, so I prefer to kind of stick to, I don't know if this is okay with everyone, just maybe changes or just currency where we're at now, different accomplishments that have been achieved later in life, stuff like that. But anything that anyone would like to bring to the topic or to the conversation, please feel free.
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, be great. I thought of a
Alrighty.
subject for a future one. I said to Roger earlier, but if we could just stick to the one you said for now. That sounds good.
Well, I mean, if you'd like to start with what you already spoke on before, what was the subject
Well, I
specifically?
am I am really going to in depth. I just had the idea for it for a future. I wasn't meant for today. I just had the idea. It was just about people like when I was younger. You could read people, so to speak, and now you can't do that anymore. Everyone's got their like guards down. You can't see what they the real them anymore. And I would just want to talk, say about that. Maybe we can talk about it in the future. Your idea is great. Maybe we should stick with that for now and have this one for future one.
Or okay, or collaborate because it definitely sounds interesting. I'd
Yeah,
actually like to hear more about that if you'd like to start and just like lead in with some things that you've maybe seen because I feel as though that kind of signifies certain changes that have happened, well, we'll say prospectively, just from transitioning towards different times, where we've been and where we are as far as concerned to where we're going. So, I mean, maybe you
yeah.
should. What different things have you observed? And
Well, I just remember it started off a conversation with um, a old girlfriend's father. He was really sound guy, really deep guy. You got real long conversations with him, and he said about it, and I thought, oh my god, you're right. You're so right. He just said when we were young, he said. You see a person in the street, you could read them. You know what they were like, if they're good, bad, whatever. You could just tell, just read them. He said, now you can't. It's just everyone's got their walls now, and you said you just can't do it. And I think it's getting worse because now, as cause I spoke about this quickly, Rogers, before you came online. Now you've got, you got personas. You've got everyone trying to be a mimic their TikTok character, favorite characters they see, and yeah, but that's more like a physical thing, I suppose. But spiritually, I don't know if it's spiritual or what it is. It's just that I just notice it now. You just can't read people anymore. Just cannot do it. Um, Whereas you used to be able to. When I was young, you could, and now just can't. I don't know the reason behind it. I don't know if it's probably down to society's changes. I would think the way that we people now are brought up and stuff to maybe suppress themselves, their feelings from being maybe like uh, people take the mickey out of them and stuff like that if they show their certain feelings a certain way. I don't know. I don't really know the root of it. Why it is it? I don't know, but it does sort of interest me. Um,
per-
you know.
perhaps a collaboration of everything. If you look at it from a generalized perspective, within society, there's been so many changes implemented with between like different things where we'll transition to more of a technological standpoint. And if you think
Yeah,
about the thing like with television, you mentioned TikTok, but like even just in general with like the stuff that we listen to as far as our music, our different type of peer groups. I also we understand how our experiences kind of breed our expectations. We kind of guard things based off of how what we're used to. So if
yeah,
something, even if we're going into a new experience, but something seems familiar, usually we kind of equate it to being similar, and then sometimes we'll bring past responses into the present, and then if you've done anything once and maybe you were not that good at it, the more you do it, the more often you encounter it, you tend to get better. So let's say that even on a negative standpoint, unfortunately, if you usually go into a certain type of situation a certain way, and then once you start seeing reminders or anything to where it makes you feel like, okay, this is similar, it when it comes to putting your guard up, maybe you didn't have it up as much before, so you put it up a little bit more, and then the more you engage with certain type of situations, um you put it up even further. Just is it perhaps, do you think maybe people are learning from past experiences, or not, even if it's not necessarily learning, because sometimes when you learn and you're growing, you realize that putting your guard up is the opposite of what should be done. You should be more so focused on actually being more welcome and more open. So do you feel like maybe it's like not trickery or sorcery, but like perhaps implement it in order for people to have these type of responses, in order for it to make it easier for a certain type of agenda to be carried out?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm just thinking about my own experiences. Are just going to come back to me. When I was young, I was engaged to a girl, and she two-timed me 2 weeks later after we got engaged.
Hmm.
And so it obviously really hurt, as you'd imagine. And I know that from that day onwards, I've sort of suppressed emotions from that, you know. So that's sort of me then sort of putting a guard up, I would say, in a certain situation, in that situation, like with loved ones and stuff. Because I still don't really show my emotions now that much after all this time. This was like, oh my God, 33 years ago this happened. But still, like, it affects me now, if you know what I mean. I'm still not, I should be more open, yes, but you can't. When you've been hurt, you just, you know, the
How
right thing
long
to
were
do is
you
face
guys
it.
how long were you together before you got engaged?
About a year. I
And
was,
prior to that, you had no knowledge of her doing this type of any type of activity
no,
in
she
which.
didn't do it before. It happened after we got engaged, yeah. So,
Oh,
yeah, my best mate as well made it worse.
wait,
So,
what? Are you kidding me?
no, it's my best mate. So, I'm still
Wow.
friends with him now, funny enough. We got over it because it wasn't, we got it all past that, you know. Friends over
What
40
about the
years.
girl? Are you associated with her?
No, well, I'm friends with her on Facebook now, but not. We don't speak or anything like that. We're not, you know what I mean. We were both very young, you know. I put down to past mistakes. Both of us, we were very young and stuff. But I didn't realize till now, just as much. Because my partner says to me, "You don't show your emotions enough," and I just think, and I just never thought anything of it. And I just thinking, my God, this is probably why, you know. And I'm looking back on it from this one incident, 30 odd years ago, and yet it sort of builds the person that you are today. You know, maybe in a bad way or maybe in a good way. Sometimes, who knows? But
Do
there
you
you go.
feel
It's
as
just
though
me.
they explained to you?
Say again.
I was just gonna ask, do you feel as though if she explained to you what happened or her mindset or just how things were, like, do you feel as though that might offer some type of closure or a clear
Uh,
understanding?
I don't know. You know, we actually went back together after it, but it just wasn't right. A few months later, we split up. Um, I can't really remember now. It's so long ago.
Yeah.
No, I'm over it all now. You know what I mean? I'm not. It don't hurt. Doesn't hurt me anymore. Anything like that. The reason I mention it is just it's because it's affected the way maybe that I've gone from that moment on. It doesn't hurt me anymore. It doesn't like bother me anymore and stuff. You know, in that sense. But just maybe it affected the way I am now. So
What about you guys, Bob Dub or Roger? What are your experiences with your ability to be able to see people for who they are through the mask or veil that they may wear?
I was wondering, as you guys were talking, and I think that part of it is that you do lose your innocence. as life goes along and you get hurt is you realize that things aren't as good as you thought they were. And more people let you down as you go along. And so that sort of like taking everything at face value goes away, because you realize that good people do bad things and make bad mistakes. And so even though like your first impression of them is one thing, your experience tells you that you can't necessarily trust that first impression to last, because people do things that like you would never in a million years have thought that person would do that thing. I don't know, maybe I'm saying it's self-doubt. Maybe I'm saying a bit of self-doubt creeps into what you thought was your skill and your ability to judge people. You realize, oh, yeah, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was.
I don't know, when it comes to me, like Bob Dub mentioned innocence, you know, and I think that's really something that a lot of people don't really think about either. Like, when did you lose your innocence? You know, I mean, not too many people really reflect on their lives and think about that stuff. So, like, for me, I remember when I used to live in a small town. It wasn't even a town. It was called Higley, Arizona, and I used to sit out on the back porch. And the cool thing about living in the desert is you could look out and see all the lights in the distance. And I was living in the desert, which would be country here, you know. But and the only thing I wanted to do is I wanted to go where those lights were, you know what I mean, and be a part of the city and freaking see all this new stuff. And when I finally got that, I realized, man, I lost something by doing that, you know, because when I was living out there in the desert, man, I was innocent, you know. And, that's where my innocence was, and I really feel that's when I lost it, because I was introduced to a new world that taught me that, like you guys said, bad things happen, you know. And not only do other people do it, but I do it myself, and that's when it's really something that kicks in. And like especially with relationships, like I couldn't tell you. Well, I could, but it would take forever to go through all the bad relationships I've been in, you know. So, but I can relate to all that. So that's all I got on that part. So that's it.
I also think that is a part of it, is that our parents and our parents' parents, and forever that we can think of, that there was one relationship. They got together, then they were 16, and that was it until they died. Those guys, it wasn't like us. We've been in this relationship and then it's ended, and this relationship and then it's ended, and this relationship and then it's ended. They had like 50 solid years, one relationship. And so there was no complications. It was, you know, with us, we've been in and out and in and out and we're the first generation that did it, you know. We're the divorced generation. And I wonder if part of the sort of societal collapse that we're seeing is being part of this, that allowing divorce, allowing broken relationships.
It's funny because I just recently saw something that was talking about, and it was more fixated from like a standpoint of like the melanin community, of the idealistic or idealism and the glorification of baby moms and baby dads. And it was just talking about how such a negative connotation on relationships have been derived, and how we have to go back to having values and having morals, because we're attempting to, and I'm a very big advocate on having committed connections. And that's why I really I don't stand for fake for too long. I can take people for as they present themselves, but being who I am and what I stand on within myself, it's only but so long I'll allow anything or anyone to deceive me and continue to get away with it, at least get comfortable with doing so. But when we're talking about having a genuine connection and we're talking about develop, there were, and I'm not going to mention names because I feel like that helps them more than it hurts them. But the people that they were speaking about, they were talking about how, well, it's okay, you just can find you someone to have a child with. The thing about it is, I was married prior to now. I was married for a long time. I got married in 2012 and my divorce just finalized last year. So I was married for an increased amount of time. And in my relationship, I stood on staying committed. My vows were my vows for a reason. I took an oath to stand by that man. The problem was that that man did not take his vows as seriously as I took my vows. There were always room for tweaking, and they were not going to. There's no there's certain definitions to loyalty, and then being committed means this, and then, well, I always kind of was thinking about practicing this religion, things that should have been disclosed prior to me having multiple children and not being in a relationship, not as a bother, but definitely was never a goal. But now people have made it to where it does not matter if I have kids by this person, just let me just have the kids. And that's the continued narrative. Like, as long as I have the children, what difference does it make if I'm present in the home? What difference does it make if I'm an active father, an active mother? And it's become so unfortunately, it's devouring. It's because it's devouring our soul, it's devouring our consciousness, it's devouring our connections. It's having us to feel as though this type of situationship is okay. And then you'll have music that glorifies it, people of high stature glorifying it, and they'll make it seem as though, well, as long as, like we said, as long as the kids get here. And I mean, it's not any separation. Like the people that I was listening to speak the podcast was focusing, yes, more so on the melanin community because it's more dominant. But I don't like to have that separation as if, like, in the Caucasian community, it's such a higher standard and everyone's sticking together and being loyal to their spouse and staying in one relationship, because it's not like that anywhere right now. Right now, the dominant focus is having the kids, and we'll work on it. But the problem is there is such a strain in single households. I recognize this within myself personally. When I was married, I never had to raise my voice. It was always he. I was never having to be a disciplinary. And when at all, and it was my job to kind of kiss the booze after they would get yelled at or disciplined. My then husband would say, "Okay, now go see your mom. She has hugs for you." And that's how it was. He would tell them what they needed to hear and how stuff needed to be done, and then they would come cuddle with me, and then life went on. And it worked. It worked because I don't like to yell. I don't like to have to get upset. I get bothered, and what I notice is, especially in recent days, like what I connect to, those things that are usually easily angered and very very mild tempered. That when I allow them too close to me, that kind of it seeps into what I do here and how I am. And I don't like to get short with my children. I mean, if you're short with your children, okay, that's something you fix. Do not project it on me and think as though I'd like to exhibit the same, because we operate more on a team function and we have to. But when I discipline my kids or yell at them on me, they're great. Thank God that they were raised the way they were and their foundation has been laid. And it's very difficult for outside forces to penetrate us. Even if we have relapse or we have setbacks, we always stay grounded on what it is. So they'll want to cuddle right after because that's what their mentality is. Mom may have yelled at me, but yeah, I love you. They'll come and they apologize when they're wrong. Mommy, I apologize. I was wrong. I don't know many children I know when I was a kid, when I got yelled at, my mom's mean. Oh man, mom, you're being mean to me. And a lot of times, but they'll reason with me. They're like, no, we did this. They understand. They say, we did this. we should not have done this. And if we would have not done this, you would not have yelled at me like this. You would not have said this. And for that, I am so grateful. But in the same reality, I still recognize how when if a guy is talking to me, they'll be like, yeah, you want to play basketball. They'll want to like welcome them into our peer group, welcome into our cipher, because I understand they miss that connection, they miss that having that male figure. But it's to the point now how we're talking about being unable to read people. I'm not. I can still read people. I know when I'm being lied to, even if I continue with the lie to make someone feel like they're getting over on me. But my biggest thing is why would I like my children to grow up around someone who feels as though lying to get over on people is acceptable? Why would I rather them have their mom be like, once that's the foundation of any type of connection, there is no connection. You're already giving way to falter. You're already giving way to weakness. But people are lying to hide themselves because they don't like that person in the mirror. That person that's looking back at them, their actions, the stuff that they do, whatever excuse we'd like to make as to why we do what we do. Oh, I had a tough life. Oh, this is how I was brought up. Oh, eventually, our life becomes our responsibility. We're not allowed to blame the things that we went through as a child on the reason we act as we do as an adult, especially if we're conscious of them. See, if it's been oppressed and yet to be uncovered, then that's something different, because we don't know, or suppressed. We don't know that we don't remember. We're not recalling, oh yeah, we went through this. Oh yeah, this happened. Da, 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 da. So we're just doing things and we're unsure why. Once we're sure why we're doing things and we know, oh, we're acting this way because of this situation, and we see that those situations are completely different, like, I'm racist because my mom and dad were racist. So it's okay for me to be racist because that's how I was raised. You're almost 60. It's not okay. At some point in life, you should have been able to say, I mean, or it's just you're racist. We're not going to blame mommy and daddy at 60. At my age, I'm not blaming, in 30s, I'm not blaming my mom and my dad for the way I respond to things. That's not even fair, because it's now my choice to be a certain type of way. I'm the adult now. I'm the adult raising racist kids. I'm the adult raising people with racist perspectives. Or I'm the adult raising kids that feel like my kids know the value of marriage. When I say that despite me being a single mom, I always emphasize the importance of the partnership, because that is why we have to have a balance. If it was not necessary to be balanced, then test tube babies would be taking over the world, and they are, to the extent to where people are doing like IVs, but it's not natural. It's an unnatural occurrence to a natural, beautiful process. We're eliminating the connection strategically through different technological methods. Like I said, I've always wanted a baby, so I implanted this baby in some random person, or this random. I let some random person. Sperm banks have existed for forever, but it's to the point to where it's been made okay, and certain groups are going to sperm banks and focusing on IVs. We're not even thinking about that child growing up in a broken home. Oh, the home's not broken because I'm rich. It is still a broken home. They're still not going to experience that partnership or that love from both sides that continue. Like, man and woman, yin and yang, that's all one. When you find your one, when you find your whole, and it's not your half, your better half. No, no, no. You should be a whole person before you go out here looking for another person, not a half a person hoping for someone to put you back together. You should be put together and then you connect. And then once you guys get together, you create something beautiful. It shouldn't be, I'm so selfish, I'm so greedy, I want to have this kid no matter what. Because if it was something that was naturally supposed to happen, it would. It would be here. You would have a male and a woman put together, and then they would father their children, they would mother their children, and they would work as a unit to raise those children. Even if the relationship did not work out for whatever unforeseen reason, you still have that ability to talk to your mom, talk to that. My kids, their father is few and far between, which when we were married, even with the divorce on the rise, I would have never saw him behaving in the manner that he behaves. And I left. He came home from work one day and I was gone because the abuse got to be too tremendous. But again, like I said, I never in my life would have seen myself having a relationship with having multiple kids. Like having multiple kids out of a relationship, to me, I just feel like it's devastating to the children. I don't care what type of status you have. I don't, because I grew up without having a father figure. My mom's a doctor, very renowned doctor. We were not at all begging or on any street. Like if you go to my home in Jersey, my second home, if you go there, there's movie theaters in the basement, gym in the basement, huge house, and I still feel like stuff was missing. But we don't take that into consideration. Our selfishness and our desire to have what we want would not put that in position. And so now it's like baby daddy, oh, baby mama, and yeah, like as long as I have the kid, and we're devastating our youth because we're not even giving them an opportunity to thrive successfully. We're giving them a disadvantage when we welcome them into the world. Like, hey, I'm only half here, or I'm not here at all, and that's okay. That's the normal.
We're in a I want society. I think we've always been in it, but it's now because stuff is too easy to do. As well as you say with the young mums wanting kids, so I'm just going to have a kid. Don't think about the consequences. Don't think about how they're going to bring the child up, or they're going to get benefits if it's in the UK. I don't know how it works in other countries.
And that shouldn't be a goal.
Yeah, in the UK, if you're a single mum and it doesn't matter what situation, single mum, you get a house, you get everything paid for you. It's like they get everything for them on a plate. It's just you have to work for it. You know what I mean. It's just there, and it's
the good
wrong.
thing is that they can take care of their.
It's wrong the way society's gone. It really is.
It's good they can take care of their kids, but I mean, not even to me. I mean, like even single dads that are out here just getting girls pregnant, trapping them, getting them pregnant because they want kids or they want to populate the earth, stuff like that. No matter how much money you have, having a child just because you want lots of kids, if you're not present in the home, is an unjust, and it's doing the world a disservice. You are going to always have a child that's questioning why daddy wasn't there or why mommy's always busy, because even single moms that work, they cannot be present for their child on a consistent basis. And so I kind of respect the fact that the UK makes it to where the mom is allowed to raise her child, but is she actually raising her child? Like, because in the United States, that's not happening. First of all, if they give any type of money in the United, and I guess it's different per state, but if they give any type of money in the United States, it's not enough to raise a child. They're not giving out houses. They're not giving out the means to sustain. And so, I mean, like, at least they're taking into consideration a mother should be raising their child and making that possible. But what about the time? Like, then what happens to the child? Does the child grow up to follow that footstep?
I think I've answered my own question. I said earlier on about personas, fronts, people, garden. As you've just said, there's a lot of single parent families out there now, more now than ever, because of the situation, the way life is. So you think about it, as you've just said, this child's thinking, oh, where's my dad? Why haven't I got a dad? There's no father structure in the home. Not just that, you could have two ladies together, and that's fine. They're going to be fine. They're going to love the child just as much as a man and a woman it would. But you're going to have children from a young age basically climbing up because they're not getting the love that they want, the attention that they want. And half of the single mums that I see in this area, they're out in the pubs all the time, so they're not looking after their kids properly because you see them out. I don't drink or go out myself anymore, but you just see them stumbling out of pubs at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and stuff like that. And you go, who's looking after your kids? Usually down to their grands or something like that. Fair enough, but I think it's society that's made people this way. You've got youngsters probably climbing up from a young age because they're not getting the attention they want, or they're getting it from the internet or from the games. They think they're getting some sort of attention from the internet. or they get it from games consoles, stuff like that, which is not proper attention. But that's what they've drawn to. That's their way of escapism, because they're not getting what they want at home, and it's sad because it's really sad. You know what I mean? I don't like the way it's gone. Because my marriage broke up after 10 years, but in my case, my ex-partner came out as being gay. So what could I say? There was nothing I couldn't argue with that. I couldn't say to her, "Oh, you might be better next week. You might be doing." It's not going to happen. You're gay. You're gay. You know, you are what you are. And we split up on good terms, and I saw the children every single day until I got in a relationship myself, and then it all went pear-shaped. I wasn't allowed to see the kids once I was in a relationship myself for 3 weeks, which is the longest 3 weeks of my life, because I've seen them every day since they were born up to then, because I was a stay-at-home dad when they were young as well, and stuff like that. But there we go, you just get on with it. There's just something I remembered earlier. My grandparents were together about 50 odd years. They always used to bicker. I can see them now on this little table, dining room, always bickering, nothing nasty, just the way they were. And one day my granddad said, "Right, that's it, I'm going." And my grand says, "Yes, and I'm coming too," she said. And they went. And they didn't go anywhere, they just laughed about it and they just carried on. And I just think, well, that's, you know what I mean, that's just brilliant. You couldn't make that up, you know, it's just brilliant, you know. But like these days, you have an argument, you end up leaving, you don't try and sort it out, you just go. They say, I'm falling out, and the next thing they're posting on Facebook, "Oh, I've fallen out, I'm single now, my status is single now." And I was, just because I've had an argument. It's just
on stage,
crazy.
telling everyone that they're single.
Stage, that's it. Yeah. It's like on Facebook now, you hear people telling everyone what they've just had to eat, and I'm at the hospital, and they just say that just to get attention. Don't tell people what I'm at the hospital for. Could be going for a checkup, or I'm at the hospital,
or visiting someone. They're not,
visiting someone. Yeah. Oh, don't say that. Just get all the attention. Are you okay? Are you okay? It's just rubbish.
But
it's the blood boil.
A lot to do
most an old man.
with lack of attention, because again, something to look at were they born in single parent homes? And not to say single parent homes are the only homes that are causing disturbance, because like you were saying, a lot you'll see like some of the women that they'll be out and they'll be doing stuff other than raising their kids. But shout out to the single moms that grind. They'll be working 12, 15-hour shifts, nurses and CNAs, and they still not raising their kids though. So it's the same effect. If a mom is, you know what I mean, working all day long every single day and not even in the home with the children, how can you raise the kids? How can you even sit and, provide for them? You're only providing material things. And that's the thing. As long as you have lots of money and lots of shiny objects, you're winning. And then the kids, how can you be mad? Because you created this. You kind of created this standard. At least I've always bought you everything you wanted. I may have never showed up at a school play, or I never picked you up from school like a normal child. But at least you could say that you had lots of money when you were growing up. Because that was kind of the cop-out for me. Your mom's a doctor. You should be happy. Doesn't matter if she's abusing you or being mean to you. She's a doctor. And it's just like,
what you wanted was your mum.
It's your mum.
You wanted your mum to be around. I know it's difficult because you've got to have a roof over your head, haven't you? You've got to earn money, and I understand that's awkward and stuff, but what you wanted was your mum.
You want, and same with my boys. So my son was acting out. I put him in a public school. We had to go through counseling. We went through team groups. We went to a private school, and both a public and private school told me that there was no chance for my child. He was 6, and he would have to be in alternative school. We even explored the idea of alternative school. We went to this alternative school, and there were police everywhere, and they're sitting there with their guns. He's 6 now, and they're saying, "This is my child's only option. for him to have a successful future. And so I'm being the type of person I am sacrificed everything at that time. I mean, I was getting money because I was doing so much overtime. I actually the PlayStation they have came because I worked in 1 week by my well, for one check it was like 125 hours of overtime at my full-time job. And so it's like, oh, here you go, here's a Best Buy gift certificate. And so I was able to get like I got like $500 of Best Buy because I was the only person all day, all night. I mean, like, it was all day, all night. But I had no way in my mind comfort with putting my child in a school where he's surrounded by police. They had no playground. All they had was a basketball. It was literally, and we call it to this day, the jail school, because there's a basketball hoop inside of a fence, and that was his option. And they had given up on my child. They said, we don't want him here. But he told them, he's like, I don't want you people to teach me. I want my mom to teach me. We're doing a round table. We had social workers. We had the people that representatives from the board. We had it was like the principal, the counselors, the guidance counselors, and then the in-school police that was there for that school, at the public school. And this happened twice. Like I said, I took them to public school. Then we had the transition to private school. And they both told me that the only place was New Beginnings that would be okay for him. And so I had to sacrifice. I had to sacrifice what I was doing for the well-being of my children, which most people won't do. I got to get my money. And that's the emphasis. And that's what we'll focus on. And as long as I'm getting my money, my kids' well-being and them crying out for me does not matter, because I have to get this money. And then the kids grow up with the I'm going to have to get this money mentality no matter what. Having a genuine connection with people and loving people and caring for people does not matter, because I have to get this money. And then next thing you know, people are getting robbed because I have to get this money. They didn't ever tell me, well, my well-being didn't matter. Why should yours? When I was a kid, I didn't want the money. I wanted my mom. And she told me I had to get this money that I didn't want. I could care less about the new Jordans. I wanted to spend time with Dad. He said, we got to get this money. He didn't tell me that I had to care about how you feel. He told me to get this money by any means. Well, and then you get it to where people get it handed to them. And so you would think, oh, well, they'll be okay. No, those are the worst. Now they're people that are super, super rich and probably have some type of control over situations and are manipulating people on a vast scale, to where their businesses, their employees are scared. They're hungry. They're hiding because they're not allowed to take any breaks. They have to do stuff to manipulate the system just so they can have a few minutes for themselves, because their well-being isn't taken into consideration because their boss has to get this money. Like, how do we get rid of this? How do we even think for a minute that it's something that could be altered or changed for the better?
Yeah, I'm not sure how it's going to change. Roger, Bob, have you anything to say about this?
It's interesting. I was thinking about what I was saying earlier, what Karma's saying about how many problems you have with your kids when you're split up, and what you were saying about your grandparents bickering. And I'm thinking, maybe that's our mistake. Maybe we had these big fights and we broke up. Maybe we should have learned to stay together and bicker with each other. And maybe somehow it's been our inability to communicate with each other, man and woman, and us splitting off into these single parent families, that's done this to our kids, and that's put them in such a weak position in society, where they have to face all these problems. And yeah, I don't know. It's really an interesting question that you've raised, John, about like why it is difficult to read people. I mean, with this amount of sort of chaos in our personal relationships, it's not surprising. It's hard enough to try and figure out what's going on in your own head without trying to figure out what's going on in somebody else's head. let alone another sort of 200 people that you sort of interact with all week long.
But
maybe we need to withdraw a bit from society and go and live in the bush.
and listen, you're saying it as a joke, but I was just about to say, shouldn't it be that we should be focused on ourselves? We're not, though. We're focused on making a mark in this world and making a name for ourselves and people knowing who we are. We're not even developing ourselves in a healthy manner, and we're just projecting our dis-ease, which it is a disease, but D-I-S, dis-ease, E-A-S-E, all over to society, all over our children, even staying. I wish, like we talk about staying and bickering. Oh God, if he wasn't beating and like molesting, like I wish we could have stayed, because I did everything to fight for my marriage. And
Me too.
sometimes it's not just,
Yep.
it's not, you know, it's not just
Sometimes you
allowing,
can't.
because if we're just arguing, I could have stayed, even through infidelity, because it was never that stuff. It was not that. It was definitely my kids coming in my room and my entire face bloody. That, and then them asking me, "What happened, Mama? What happened?"
What happened,
And you
Mommy?
have to explain. And
Or
Daddy
lie.
did this. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and for a long time, I would do. I'm okay, but. Then you become the monster because you're a liar. Like no
Because
matter
you're
what
the
you
liar.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
and so
I was the liar. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that after all those years of me protecting my kids, that in fact what I'd been doing was lying. I was a liar mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You think
Yep.
you're doing the right thing. You think you're doing the
By
right
hiding
thing.
the truth. Yep.
By hiding the truth, or by trying to be the dad as well as the mom. You know what I mean? You try to do your best, but you're not meant to be the dad. You're meant to be the mom. You're good at being the mom, and you're bad at being the dad. And all the mistakes that I made. No, that's probably a lie. Some of the really serious mistakes I made when I thought, I need him. What do I do here? What would he do? And then choose the exact wrong thing and go with it.
The thing is,
So
with being a parent, there's no manual. You don't go and buy get a book from a library. This is how you become a dad. This is how you become a mum. You become a parent from being with someone you hopefully love and like want to be with and what have you. But then it's like, oh, crash course. What do I do now? Because there's no one out there. You can get advice maybe from your mum and dad if you're lucky to be in that position. But it's just all about learning. And every parent makes mistakes because you have to learn. Because how else are you going to find out? There's no other way. There's no like, can't put a TV show on at 12 o'clock every day. You've got to learn how to be a parent from this show. There's nothing. A parent, you've just got to learn, and it's hard. I'm still learning as a parent myself, and I probably always will. You know, it doesn't make you a bad person because you make mistakes, because you were just trying to do your best. You were just doing what you thought was best. And as you said, if you were lying to your kids just to protect them, you were doing it because you thought it was best, you know. And my ex, when I wasn't allowed to see my kids, she told them that I didn't want to see them, and I wasn't that at all. I wasn't allowed to see them, but she told them that I didn't want to see them. Years later, they're growing up. They know the truth now. They know exactly what she's like now and what's happened now. But back then, I was the bad one. I was the one, you know, because I didn't want to see him, and that's what they believed. So there we go.
It's
you know,
an absolutely terrible thing, you know. And there's millions of us who are in it. We believed the scientists. We believed the psychologists. We followed their advice. We did these things, and we thought that I'm not saying that it's okay to stay in an abusive relationship.
No, shouldn't.
I'm not saying that it's unfaithful. It's good to stay with an unfaithful person. I'm not trying to say you stay no matter what.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say that those things that drove us away from our relationships have to be fixed. so that we're not breaking up, that we're staying together and bickering and learning to love each other and laugh with each other and bicker anyway. You know, good natured toing and froing between people who've just been together. You're changed, you mature, you grow wisdom when you're with one person. When you're
going back to, like I said about my grandparents were together 50 odd years, but my gran was actually married before and divorced, because my father's real father was, I don't know the full story because obviously I was never told because I was too young, but he was extremely abusive. He had mental health problems. I don't know the full story, but she divorced him, and this would have been like in the 1940s, which would have been huge. Just didn't do it back then, you know. And yet then she met someone she was together with the rest of her life until he passed away. So sometimes it's just about, you just find the right person, isn't it? You know, because we're not experts. Because you say we can't read people, you know, it's hard to read people. I can't read people. As soon as I speak to them, then I can start to read them. Then I can say, hang on. But skilled people, they can block themselves to a high degree to get you hooked in them in a relationship, and then bang, it turns out then to be abusive wherever after, and you don't know that before you just don't know, do you? Because again, it's all a learning curve, isn't it? There's no manual out there to tell you, avoid this person, he's got these, you know, things, he might do this, who's to tell you that? You have to learn it, don't you? You know?
When I hear you guys talking, the one thing that really sticks out to me is the word intimacy. You know, I think people, like, it goes back to what your topic says, you know, people today don't really understand what intimacy is, you know. There's an old saying that says, into me, see. Whenever I'm with another person, I have to understand I feel love, okay? Just because I'm feeling love doesn't mean the other person is feeling the same way. So I have to be able to see if that person's really into me. All right, are they wanting to know more about me, wanting to know more about my life, what makes me tick, or is it all about them? You know, and that's one issue. That's why I'm still single, is because I can't do that. I can't tell if another person is into me, you know, if they're actually wanting to be with me because they want to be with me, or if it's some other alternative motive, you know. So I told Karma before, I've actually been celibate for like the last 12, 13 years, and I chose to do it. It's not because I'm freaking some crazy priest in a monastery or anything. I chose to do it, and it wasn't because of the other people. It was because of my decision makings. You know, my decision making is what caused all my problems. And until I was able to take responsibility for that, I kept doing it. I kept getting into those toxic relationships, you know, and that's what they are. I mean, the one big reason that I see why most of these relationships are going bad is because they're just toxic relationships from the get-go. I just wasn't able to see it before I got into it, you know, so... but yeah, intimacy is something that I've really, it sticks out to me when I hear you guys. It was a good
People
talk.
are driven on materialism, and that's because our leaders, our influencers, the people that are in the spotlight are telling us that materialism is what the goals are. And so when you're already looking, if you've already lacked leadership because you were raised in a single parent home, or because your parents were preoccupied with their self and their goals, when you're looking to outside sources in order for them to guide you, and their guidance is get as much money as you possibly can, you're not there. No one's teaching you to build yourself confidently. No one's teaching you to love yourself. They'll say, oh, self-love is the best love, and if you love yourself, you'll get rich. And like, that's what it boils down to: having the most money you possibly can by any means. So we have like an influx of scammers. We have an influx of people just pretending to be something they're not. We have video synthesizers, voice synthesizers. People can say and look and sound how whoever they want to be, could make a whole entire new persona just because of the existence of satellites, internet services, and us being able to. It's not even the fact that these things are available if they were being used properly. It's the fact that the developers, the underlying notion is to use them for deception. I'm going to use this to deceive people into thinking I'm someone I'm not. And so that's the baseline, and then that's what's growing. Whatever your foundation is set, wherever, that's why you cannot build a house on swampland. Whatever foundation you lie, whatever type of existence you create, regardless of what you put on top of it, it's always going to be as good as what's there in the basement. No matter how you like to store it, them bodies eventually that you tuck underneath the house, they're going to start to smell, or a dog's going to dig up the bones, or all of a suddenly you're going to start seeing spirits. No matter how far you attempt to suppress what's real, it's always going to show itself one way, shape, or form. And it gets worse when you keep attempting to bury it. Like, oh no, that's not a body you see. So you keep like pushing it down under the ground. No, 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 no. I didn't have any dead bodies. And you're like, as you're with the shovel, just steady burying it in front of the person. Like, but why are you digging a hole deeper? No, 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 no. I'm not digging a hole. I'm just gardening. Okay, so what is that skeleton that you have, right? The skeleton? No, are you crazy? This is fertilizer. And they'll just sit in your face and constantly lie and manipulate you. And then they'll have
Yeah.
babies. And the babies will do the same thing. And so it's like one of those things, like my kids, I'm very transparent with them. That's what I learned. I'm not going to lie for anything. Not like to my team, we're going to be real and we're going to be open. And like and my son, he told me, he checked me one day, and he was no, we were here, so he was 7 at the time, and he was like, I told them that I was okay, and then a few minutes later they caught me crying. And he says, "Mommy, why are you crying if you're happy?" Because we asked each other, "How do you feel?" Like when we started a good day, good day, and we asked each other, "How do you feel?" Because we actually care. Like my mom never asked me how I felt, because if I told her something was wrong, then it was her fault, and now we're attention back on her. You're not doing what you need to do, or even if it was just something that I was dealing with. So I never got. I was never really able to express openly how I felt, which was probably why I went to school for psychology, and I guard that so importantly for people to be able to express how they feel, especially towards me, with me, even if it's in confidentiality, even if it's just openly, just be real about. And that's why I'm very expressive. I refuse to be oppressed or have my emotions suppressed because of people feeling uncomfortable about it. Because if you're uncomfortable with my feelings, with who I am, then you're uncomfortable with me. Then there's no reason for me to force myself on you, because this is who I am and I'm going to say how I feel. But he asks me, he says, "You lied to me because you said you were happy, mommy. I'm happy when you're happy, but when you're sad, I'm sad." I said, "I know, that's why I didn't tell you that I was sad." But mommy, you're not supposed to lie. You say, and they don't say like, "Mom, you're not supposed to tell stories." You say you're not going to tell stories. We're gods. You don't tell stories. And I'm like, "You're right. And I told you a story and I apologize. I'll do better. But I don't like for you to feel anything that I'm going through." So it got to the, "Mommy, you should just tell us, we're a team because we can make it better together." I mean, for you to be 7 and you say this, and I have adults who are not even able to vocalize how they feel, I feel like I'm doing something right, because you know that energy travels and that how I feel is going to affect you, and that we should be open towards each other about how we're feeling, regardless of how the other person may feel about what we're saying, because if not, we're causing problems for each other. And I value that with them, because like if someone's doing us wrong and they want to know why these things are going wrong, I'm not going to sit here and put somebody in a light that they don't deserve. I'm not going to sit here and put someone on a pedestal that they should not be put on, because we're all affected by this. Like my kids now, they'll know when their iPads are hacked, and they're like, "Mom, my iPad's hacked. Look," and they know what to look for. But a lot of kids nowadays are being hacked and being intercepted, and people are using their likenesses for their for whatever their own ulterior motives and personal agendas are, and they don't even know what to look for. They don't know what signs to be. So it doesn't. "Oh man, my stuff's glitching," and then it keeps going. "Oh man, this phone sucks." But it's not. It's literally their entire existence being intercepted by something that has no clue of their own. because if it did, it would not look for others. It'd be too consumed and indulged in itself for it to even consider interfering with another's. But that's because they're scared of the inner work. The inner work means, hey, you know what? I might have made some mistakes, and wow, that was horrible what I did. I should not have treated that person like this. But people rather make excuses as opposed to correct the issue. And so and then they breed a bunch of excuses. And then their excuses have more excuses until someone says, you know what? Enough is enough. We have to sit here and hold ourselves accountable for our actions. We have to sit here and actively value someone's life as much as we value our own, or at least start valuing our own so that we're able to value others. Because if you feel as though others are disposable, it only ultimately makes you the most disposable. At your hands too, because there's some stuff, like, I don't feel like rapists and pedophiles should just walk around free, but we should definitely be doing the work to see where these mentalities come from. Because how many people have gotten convicted of such heinous crimes and they have kids out there? That's in their genetics now. We'll say, well, that's not necessarily how it's going to be, but you never know, because what type of mindset you're in, what type of actuality you're living in, has an effect on that which you bring into this world. Well, even if it's a plant, you cannot grow a plant strong and healthy if you're not strong and healthy to the extent that plant, unless that plant, because it's a living organism, has the will to be alive for you and says, you know what, you need my growth, and maybe that'll help you appreciate your growth and see your growth and have more growth within yourself. We don't even value plants enough to say that they would even have this type of consciousness, but they do. They have enough consciousness to sustain our life. There's no way for us to live without the presence of plants, without the presence of nature. But we like to believe that science is going to take care of it all for us, that we can do it without the source. But everything that we're developing has to be a product of the source. We have to get some type of mineral, some type of substance, some type of anything in order for us, whether it's the steel, no matter what it is, we're using stuff that comes naturally to create unnatural experiences, and then wonder why it's not going the way it should go or how we plan it to go, because we're not doing it right at the foundation.
Yep.
Okay, we've got a lot
And
of
I
time
think
left.
that's
Go on.
I think that's a big thing, is that we have lost our way spiritually. Our society, our community, we lost our way spiritually, and so we lost rectitudinous men. We lost men who lived and died for honor. And I was just making a video this morning where I said that if a man doesn't treat a woman right, then she behaves wrong, because the woman behaves in response to the men around her in her community, like her father and her uncles and her brother. A girl coming into that environment shapes herself according to the honor of the men around her. And then she enters into this contractual, intimate relationship, and she changes her character to reflect her man's character. And if he is doing things wrong, then she is doing things wrong. And I just think that we need these honor societies to come back, for men to know that. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm not trying to reflect on actual individual men doing certain things. I'm just, mankind has allowed morality to slip and allowed honor to go away. And it just, I just think religion is the way to bring back that morality and that honor, and get the energies flowing correctly through the family unit. Anyway, fascinating conversation, guys. Fascinating idea, John. Why we can't read people.
Yeah, that's very deep what you said there. And that made, wow, it was like, oh, it was really interesting. As you said, religion could help, yes, in some religions could, but then in other perspectives, religion is the downfall of man as well, and depends on which one it is, I suppose, or and what have you, because they're all
Yeah.
infighting because of
That's
it, and you know,
It would be more spirituality would be something we'd have to be in tune with, because if you're looking at like the history of religion and its development, unfortunately religion was developed for consumerism propaganda. The Vatican is the head of the religion. We have the where the United States is the head of the military, and then we have where London is the head of the money, and they're the quote unquote holy trinity. But people, and that's why when we talk about God, you often hear that's why you often hear me hear the source. I grew up Christian, grew up in Baptist home, and it was always Jesus and God. But when I grew up and I learned that God could and has been used as gold, oil, and diamond, and that when they say "in God we trust" on the back of the money, that's the God they're referring to, not the ultimate source of power. And it kind of makes it to where you feel like you've been manipulated and deceived, or you give into that and you say, oh, that's right, gold, oil, and diamond, or any variation of the sort is what's important. And so at that point it becomes to where that's what you focus on, that's what you believe in, that's where your energy is incorporated with, because in your mind you feel as though, hey, as long as it's this, or as long as I have this, then I'm in my rightful place in society. And we're so focused on fueling the corporation, i.e., making money, that we don't even take into consideration the things that we are losing, or we don't take into consideration the separation of actual emotions, of actual experience, of actual accountability, responsibility. We're just because we're so focused and programmed to fuel this machine, which is what we call a quote unquote country, but is really a corporation. And we're just doing whatever we can to remain relevant. We don't care about living life, experiencing life, and being substantial. We just would like people to know who we are, even if that means killing someone, because you're going to be remembered. Oh, I remember that. People talk about murders all day long. People talk about the horrible things that happen every single day for on a consistent basis. We hear about wars. We hear we all you hear now in the news: war, 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 kill, kill, kill. More people died. More people. There's I don't know when I've ever turned on the news and heard something happy. Maybe, oh, and today's birthdays or this month's birthdays, you might get a glimpse of that, but what you're going to see is the negative. And as long as you're programmed with the negative, unfortunately, no matter how we'd like to deny the facts, that's what you become. You become what you think about most of the time. So what we have you thinking about most of the time is being a baby mama or a baby daddy or fighting and being at war, then that's what you're going to become. So it's up to you, up to us individually to say, hey, I'd rather think about something more pleasant. I'd rather root myself and ground myself in something more meaningful, because what's being shown to me is weakening me and hindering me from as actual relevant and substantial growth.
yeah.
Roger, anything you like to add? Anyone like to add anything? We're going to get ready to close out soon.
I'm I'm all right. You guys said plenty, so I'm fine.
Bob Dub, anything you'd like to add to it?
It was very interesting. It was great being with you. Just thank you very much. It was a privilege and an honor to share time with you guys. So
I
thanks.
definitely do appreciate you all for joining us and being here. It was a great panel and successful, yes, again. And we were able to keep the time to a minimum. So hopefully this helps a little bit as well with the engagement and the understanding. I know that the longer we go, it kind of makes it where it's like, where am I following? What am I following? So that was great. John, any last words or anything?
I love Bob's cat. I've been transfixed by him, she. I don't know what. Beautiful cat. I love the cat. No, I've enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been interesting. I especially enjoyed Bob's perspective of the. She said, from a woman, how you're affected by outside sources and the wrong way to behave, and that way. I was really impressed by that. But I have enjoyed the whole show. Yeah, it's been very interesting.
Alrighty then. Yes, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your shared perspectives, and we look forward to more in the future. Hopefully, everyone has a wonderful day. And again, thank you guys for coming, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye bye.
Alrighty, good days, everyone.
Bye bye.